What should be our response? If this is true about Christ, which it is, what should be our response when we undergo situations where we feel like this is just hard, painful, grief and loss? Well, first, don't put God on trial. Humans are really good at putting God on trial when we think something's unfair. You go all the way back to Genesis. Adam and Eve are there, and they're in the garden, and then they have this temptation, and they partake of the fruit. It was a what? No, it wasn't an apple. It doesn't say. So that was a test. If you think it's an apple, you don't know. It doesn't say what the fruit was. We somehow think it's an apple. I don't know how apple got the bad rap there. I don't know. So they take part of the fruit, and then God shows up, and he asks this question, what have you done? And what's Adam's response? Remember? Yeah, so he points to the woman, but watch, he says, it was the woman's fault that you gave me. Basically, he kind of went through the woman to blame God. It's that woman's fault, but ultimately, if you hadn't given her to me, we'd be still good. John the Baptist, right, Jesus' cousin, ends up in jail. He sends his followers to ask Jesus, the Messiah, hey, are you the real deal or not? Because I thought we were close, and how am I end up in jail? Right? If you're my cousin, get me out of here. Then you find the sisters here at Lazarus' funeral. Jesus, if you'd have been here, this is kind of on you. I don't know what it is, something about the human condition that we undergo what we undergo, and then when it doesn't suit our design and our ideas and what we think should be, we put God on trial. And we usually find him guilty. I would say be careful with that. It's not that God can't handle it, but I want you to remember that it was Jesus who took the stand on your behalf. He actually went to trial. He was morally perfect. Even his executioner could say, yeah, I don't know why you're here. I don't see anything wrong that you've done. Why was he on the cross? Why did he go to the gallows? He went there for me. He went there because that's what I deserved. He went there because that's what you deserved. And so when I don't understand everything that I'm going through, I just have to be careful with putting God on trial, because I got to remember, if I'm questioning God's goodness, I just need to look to the cross. I may not understand what I'm going through in the moment, but I don't want to come to the conclusion that God is guilty of being less than good when it was his decision to go and take my guilt upon him so that I could experience his goodness. Don't put God on trial. If you do, make it a short trial and make sure you're the one found guilty. Number 2, don't run from God. Some have used pain and hurt, even pain and hurt that has occurred in the church, as an excuse to say, fine, I just won't serve you. I'm going to take my life and go home. The problem is it's God's home. You can't run from God wherever you go. Don't run to God. Run to Christ. Or don't run from him, run to him. Because he's the only one who, 1, has power to bring redemption to it, and 2, he understands. He gets it. He gets the suffering. I mean, even in the garden, he's saying, Lord, if there's another way, I'm open for ideas. He understands, and he has power to bring redemption to that. Those that have lost children have reminded me, they say, every day I wake up, I'm one day closer to a reunion. I'm one day closer to that redemption happening. The cross shows us that sometimes there's a purpose in pain, and the resurrection shows us that God has power to redeem it. God has power to redeem it. Rose Price spent her childhood, a good portion of her childhood, in Nazi camps as a Jewish child. Her parents were killed, and as she was in 3 camps, 3 in Poland and 3 in Germany. And as she was transferred and as she lived in those camps, she would receive beatings on a regular basis. And as the guards would beat her, they would say, "This is Jesus' fault. Jesus hates you. I'm beating you because of Jesus. Jesus told us to beat you." Talk about childhood trauma. As she got liberated from those camps, that was her view of Christ. Until somehow her daughter received the Bible. And she began reading that Bible and she couldn't put it down. She says, "I read it and I read it and I read that New Testament about Christ." And here's what she said. "I noticed something about Jesus as I read the Bible." She says, "I noticed that he was the lamb." Remember, Jewish context. "I noticed that he was the lamb. He didn't kill me. He didn't put me in a camp. He didn't kill my family. He died for me. He died for me. He loved me this much that he gave himself for me." And she gave her life to Christ. Smart move. Because even Jesus can bring redemption to that trauma. He doesn't deny the pain, and he doesn't deny what happened was wrong. He doesn't say it stinks to be you, survival of the fittest. He says, "I became you and suffered so that your suffering could be redeemed." You will not find that anywhere else in the universe.